This is a Music Therapy Chronicles podcast episode with Laura Elliott Buckner.
It's been a whirlwind, just like people don't tell you what their boundaries are until you've crossed them, and then it makes everybody uncomfortable. It makes you feel bad because you crossed the boundary and you didn't want to hurt somebody. And then it makes the other person feel bad because they felt uncomfortable because you crossed their boundary. So and that's not professional, but in like personal life as well. People need to like communicate. Wonder how much healthier the world would be if on like the second time hanging out, you sit down and you, maybe not the first time meeting someone, but like the second time you're hanging out with them, you sit down and you say, okay, this is what our relationship is going to look like. We have this relationship, or if you have a dual relationship, that gets super messy. And then it's helpful to have those conversations, even if you don't flat out say, this is my boundary. But if you say stuff like, oh yeah, you could definitely text me about X, Y, and Z, or hey, please text me about this or email me about this.
You're listening to the Music Therapy Chronicles, a podcast about music therapy from a variety of perspectives. Our ambition is to inspire and connect listeners through meaningful conversations, just like a music therapy conference you can listen to anywhere. My name is Tricia Coyote. I'm your weekly host and a board-certified music therapist from the New England region. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and consider leaving us a rating and review. We really appreciate them. You can find more podcast episodes, links to our pod courses, the self-care community, links to all of our social media, and get on our monthly newsletter, all at musictherapychronicles.com. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to this show today, and you can always reach me by sending an email to hello@musictherapychronicles.com. All right, Laura, welcome back to the Music Therapy Chronicles.
Hey, I'm back.
It's nice to have you back. It's been a little while. Let's see. I wrote down that your episode was 156 was the last time you were on. So do you want to start off and just tell people what you've been up to since then? And for anyone who missed that, you can just say who you are.
I am Laura Elliott Buckner. I go by Laura or Elliott in they, them pronouns. I finished my internship, got board certified. I've been working in the field, not full time, unfortunately, having to do several other part-time jobs to make ends meet, like door dashing and babysitting, but that's how it goes, that's how it goes. I'm doing the things. And those of you who missed the last episode, go listen to it. We talked about intersectionality of being a music therapy intern and also being autistic and queer and hard of hearing and part of all of these marginalized communities. Great episode. I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. I'm saying it because we had some good content. So
it was a good conversation.
I have re-listened to it a couple times and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on this podcast. I'm like really cool.
Of course you are.
Yeah. That's really what's been going on, just working. And I'm in my last semester of coursework and I'm starting my thesis. So I'm almost done with my master's degree.
Congratulations. That's so exciting.
I am aiming to finish by December. And then if it does take me an extra semester and I finish next May, I'm not going to be mad, but I'm aiming to finish by December.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, is your master's music therapy or is it something else?
Yeah, it's in music therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can tell me, this is kind of like a side topic, but before we started recording, you and on this recording, you mentioned like, yeah, I'm doing some other things too to try and like make ends meet. And I know that that's a conversation that's been coming up a lot in my life with other music therapists recently about like, we say this profession is hard. We say it's a growing profession. We put that expectation out there. But I think for people joining the profession, for young professionals, they don't necessarily get to see behind the curtain of what that reality really looks like.
Yeah, it's been hard. Not gonna lie, it's been hard. I don't want to get into like all of the details, but it's just, I am glad that the majority of my income comes from music therapy, my contract work, and then my TA position at the university I go to. But it's still like I'm door dashing. I mean, you can make good money on DoorDash. I'm not gonna lie. I did that for 3 hours before I hopped on this Zoom call.
Oh, wow.
And it was good. That breakfast crowd, they really be getting on their phones, ordering food, and then I go get it and give it. It's easy, and but yeah, I wish I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
that's not meant to be like a discourager to anybody. That's just like to let you know, like when you start out, especially when you're starting, it's going to be really hard because you're new to the profession, you're still learning. There's so much ways you can grow, and so you might not have as big clientele. So, and you're going to mess up and make mistakes. I know I have. And then it's really awkward, but it's important to like recognize that and have those conversations with people and get that professional feedback. And then, it's just a lot of stuff when you're first starting out, and this is like my first time being like, I'm like almost 100% financially independent from my parents now. It's only taken till I'm 25, but but then I have to remember to cut myself some slack because I am disabled. I forget that sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh, well, there's a reason why I'm not doing this, and this is because I literally cannot do this, and this. So,
yeah.
That was kind of a little long-winded sidebar,
Yeah, that'd be an interesting episode in itself to get multiple people to just chime in on their experience of that and making ends meet. But that kind of ties into, you said, we make mistakes, we need professional advice and like to continue growing. And sometimes there's just discomfort with that. And so the bulk of our conversation today, you wanted to talk about boundaries.
Oh, yes.
So tell us.
So here we go. As an autistic person, I have a long history with struggles with boundaries. I used to even be afraid to hear the word or say the word. Like my therapist and I, we'd have a code word of if we said that word, that's meant boundaries. But I was like afraid to say the word because I had like previous trauma when I was in high school with someone crossing a boundary and me getting hurt. So that kind of, and I crossed boundaries too, but like I didn't even know those boundaries were there. That's a big thing. Like people, especially in the professional like work setting with your employers or your contractees or whoever you're working for, they may have boundaries, but they don't tell you what they are until you've crossed them. And then it's really awkward, and then it makes you feel like shit. And then, oops, we're gonna have explicit warning, but it makes you feel like shit, and then you just feel like you suck, and you don't know how to move forward sometimes, and you get stuck in your head. At least that's been my experience, because I've had people who I thought we had this type of relationship, and then the next day they're like, we need to keep our digital communications professional. And I was like, You're the one who added me on Facebook. So, but yeah, that's a really big thing because people just don't think about that. And especially as an autistic person, I don't read social cues. Like I try, and the ones that I know are ones that I've like practiced and that I've like studied people, or that I've learned them because I'm around that person so much. But if I'm just meeting someone, I don't know what they're thinking or how they're thinking, or I don't know how to pick up on that. And then they have to say, well, actually, please don't talk to me outside of work. And I'm like, okay, cool. No one's actually said that, but it's been a whirlwind. Just like, people don't tell you what their boundaries are until you've crossed them, and then it makes everybody uncomfortable. It makes you feel bad because you crossed the boundary and you didn't want to hurt somebody, and then it makes the other person feel bad because they felt uncomfortable because you crossed their boundary. So, and that's not professional, but in like personal life as well. People need to like communicate. Wonder how much healthier the world would be if on like the second time hanging out, you sit down and you, maybe not the first time meeting someone, but like the second time you're hanging out with them, you sit down and you say, okay, this is what our relationship is going to look like. We have this relationship, or if you have a dual relationship, that gets super messy.
Yeah.
And then it's helpful to have those conversations, even if you don't flat out say, this is my boundary. But if you say stuff like, oh yeah, you can definitely text me about X, Y, and Z, or hey, please text me about this or email me about this. So last semester, I was a TA for a part-time instructor, and she praised me on my boundaries. And I was like, hey, because I normally suck at them because I don't know. I suck at them setting them for myself. Then I suck at them sometimes crossing them, because I don't know what they are. Yeah. How can you know, But I was a TA, and one of the people that was in my class was actually one of my friends because we had been in class before together. Like, we were peers. And then now there was this dual relationship of she's now my student, but she's also one of my best friends. So how do we navigate that? And then we were texting about the class. And then finally I just said, okay, we're not going to text or talk on the phone about class. We will email about class. If you want to talk about anything else, like all of the stuff that's going on in your life and yada, 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 call me and text me about that 100%. But we are going to move that to my email. And I have my email on my phone. I'm very good at not checking it. I've become better at that. Like, whenever it's time to not check it, I will not check it. And then when it is time to check it, I'll check it. But put it on my phone. You can email me even if it's an emergency, because it is on my phone. And I'll be able to see like the first sentence of the email. And that worked out pretty well. That worked out really good for me because it was just good practice in like having that uncomfortable conversation. So yeah, it's really uncomfortable both in your personal life and your professional life.
Yeah. It sounds like I love how you navigated that in a way though that wasn't like, you can't reach out to me about school at all, or we can't be friends while you're in my class. Like, I think that's awesome that you were able to find not even a gray area, but you were able to find a way that made both of those things work so you can maintain both those relationships. And I think, I'm biased, but I think like that's a great way to do it. Your school emails, like as a TA, are on your email. You have that record. It's more professional. You can go back to them if you need to. And then nothing like about your conversations about class get lost because you had a phone call and then someone forgets to follow up or whatever. So yeah, I think that's awesome, because I've definitely had relationships. I'm thinking back to, I had a friend in college who then became an RA, And part of she was an RD. So like the next step up, part of the expectation was she had to cut off all communication with people who lived in her dorm. So like no more social media, no more texting, no more calling. We could only interact with her about dorm related things. And like, she is a person I have not reconnected with to this day, because like, that's just kind of what happened. And not for it, like, that wasn't her. That was just
that was just the rule. Yeah.
But it's kind of like, well, that's really too bad that that's the way the cookie crumbled in that situation. So I'm really glad that you were able to find an alternative.
And the professors too, they were really, really good about like understanding that dual relationship between friend, because they would not, like, of course the TA and the professor are going to talk about the students, but we mostly did not talk about that one, except if we needed to, because they just like, they just respected that I'd grade her practice blogs and then help her with whatever she needed in the class, give her a little bit of extra support if she needed it. But I kind of didn't want to have those conversations with other professionals unless it was needed, So I thought that was really good that they like respected that too, because they didn't expect me to like it's not like how with your friend was, like they told her, they're like, you can't, it's done. She didn't really have a choice. Like they respected my decision and they were really proud of me and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what you're experiencing, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there's a lot of music therapists in that situation where they do undergrad, they decide to stay in the same area or at the same school for their graduate degree, potentially like right after without a break in between. And it's likely that you will have some of that overlapping. And because in your situation, like you two are in the same profession, that's an awesome relationship to maintain when you both graduate, to be able to be colleagues and collaborate. With my example, we were in different professions, but we still could have been colleagues and collaborate on other things. So I wonder if that's like a thing within our field where we're kind of just like, I don't want to use the word lenient, but understanding of like, sometimes things get a little wishy-washy and we make it work. And as a whole, we like to keep like this music therapy family communicating and like in each other's lives in whichever way is best.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't necessarily dislike the word lenient. It's just that it tends to have a negative connotation or a certain connotation.
Yeah.
That you're just like, if someone says, oh, I'm lenient with the rules, then you let people bend the rules all the time. No. I think also another way would put it would be that we're gracious.
Ooh, I like that. Yes.
We're gracious with our boundaries because we're all human and we understand that people all have like human needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with the relationship with my professor. She's kind of my professor, supervisor, mentor, thesis chair. She's kind of like my everything in music therapy right now because the program is kind of small. But everyone in my cohort is married. Every single one is married. I'm the only one that's not. So I've had to deal with a lot of stuff. Like it's been a pretty crappy year. Not 2023, but like 2022 in general was a pretty crappy year, except my internship was really good. It was hard, but it was really good. But there was a lot of crappy stuff in my personal life, but there was still a way to navigate where my professor was able to be there for me personally while still maintaining that professional relationship.
Yeah.
So like I would text her about personal things, but she said, I talked about this in one of the classes I'm a TA for this week. She said, I'm holding space for you. And then the next day, some stuff went down and I texted her. I said, this isn't professional, but you said you were holding space for me. So here I am coming into that space. I am taking up the space you are holding for me. Here's what's going on.
Yeah.
And so she would make that herself available that way. But also then after I shared that in class this past week, this is a different professor. She said, yeah, we kind of need to clarify what holding space means. Because, have you heard people say, I'm holding space for you?
Yeah.
Before?
And
Yeah.
like, it makes sense in my head, but I know some people that phrase like does not make sense to them. It's like too abstract. So tell me more.
Well, see, that phrase, I really like the emotional content behind it, like the emotional meaning, like I am thinking about you, sending you good thoughts, prayers, that kind of thing, holding space for you in my head and in my heart. But I am very literal. Could be an autism thing, could just mean being literal, because most autistic people are very concrete. Someone says, I'm holding space for you, I'm going to go knock on their door and say, hey, you said you're holding space for me. Can I sit on your couch? So people need to like be clear about what that means. Like, how can I take up that space?
Yeah.
So you have to be, I've just gotten a lot better because I don't want to hurt anyone by crossing their boundaries. So I tend to communicate mine up front. And then that gives them they're like, oh, we're having this conversation. Okay, I'm going to say whatever mine are. And then that is how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love that what you said at the beginning, where they said they were holding space. And so you decided to use that opportunity. And you very clearly said, this is what I'm using this space for. I need a space where I can talk about this unprofessional related thing. And you said you had it. So this is when I would like to use that. So I think that's important too, because sometimes people can say things like that. And like, I'll say things like that, where if you need XYZ, blah, 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 and someone will take that opportunity and I won't be ready for it, which is a me thing. If I've offered it, then I need to be prepared for when that comes up. So that would be me too, like saying, hey, I have this space to give you for this at this time in my email inbox, only over text, like setting some other criteria for it to make it more clear for people.
Some clarity, like feel free to reach me via XYZ,
Yeah.
Because when you say something like that to someone, you may mean that in your heart at the time, but then when they go to cash in on it, you're like you said, you're taken off guard. Like, what? Huh? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So I'm cautious when I say those things. I say it quite often because I mean it a lot, because I have that space to give. But I'm still cautious when I tell people that, oh, let me know if you need anything, or, XYZ. Like one of my friends, she recently had an infant die, like her child died. It was a twin. And I told her, like, we were friends. We bonded over, this is really kind of sound terrible, but we bonded over the death of another friend, because when I went to his funeral, I didn't know a single person there except for her. And then same thing. We've stayed in contact and we have other things in common. But when she experienced this loss of her child, I live over 3.5 hours away from her. Like, I can't just, go pick her up or go drive her, or, so I asked her, I said, what do you need? And she was covered in medical bills. And see, like I talked about at the beginning, I don't have a lot to give, but she was grateful for me just giving her $15 to go towards her baby's memorial.
Yeah.
Like I made it open to her. I was like, I don't have a lot to give financially or materially, but I want you to know that I want to help you in how I can. So, and I actually forgot about that for a second, and then she texted me again, like, you know, talking about cashing in on that type thing. And I was like, oh yes, I did say that. Here you go.
Yeah. That's awesome that you have that relationship, because I know most people like would be uncomfortable with the follow-up.
Yeah, no, she just like the fact that she said, hey, are you still going to be able to do this? It's okay if you're not. Like, she was expecting me to say no. I was like, no, I do remember saying that, and here's $15. That's what I can do.
So I have an example. It's between me and a student. I say student because I work in schools, not because I'm teaching music, for anyone who doesn't know that. So you can give your own example if this isn't a good one, but this is about like setting the boundary that I have not preset. And part of the reason I didn't preset it is because it wasn't something that I thought needed to be set. You know, like sometimes you don't know what your boundary is till it's crossed. So he is a student who really appreciates physical affection, which is not always appropriate in school. So we do fist bumps, right? And he will come up and put his fist in my face to say, like, I want a fist bump. And so to me, that's like, there's this fist coming towards my face. And so I back up, and then he's uncomfortable. So we've talked about, hey, like, put your fist wherever my hands are, put it so I can see it, like, so I see it coming. And so, like, I think I've communicated that it's improved, but I don't want him to go through what you explained about, like, the discomfort and being like, oh no, I've been doing this wrong, and potentially ruminating on it. So for someone who is setting a boundary, how can they help with like the closure or the moving past it so that discomfort doesn't linger, or so the person who has now learned the boundary, you know?
It's really important to address the discomfort.
Yeah.
From the person setting the boundary. I know this might make you feel upset or make you feel uncomfortable, and that's totally okay, totally normal for you to feel those things. But, you know, I'm not mad at you, or I'm not feeling XYZ. Communicate yourself. Like, even after you communicate that, there's still going to be a little bit of rumination, but it'll be a lot easier to get past. It'll be a lot easier to get past and to move forward from if you have that conversation. I don't know how old the student is and how much you have to kind of judge based on maturity and developmental level about how you would handle that conversation, but acknowledge the discomfort and say, like, I promise you didn't do anything wrong because you didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, acknowledge that the person didn't know, so they couldn't have known not to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like reassuring them that you're setting this boundary because of an action and not because of the person. Like, I'm not accusing you as a person. I'm just saying, like, this action makes me uncomfortable. I'm not okay with it, like, whatever it is. And so I acknowledge that, like, you have your feelings about that, and it's not me being upset with you as the person. It's just, how can we do something else instead of this particular thing? Yeah.
Right. Just communication is the biggest thing. And people don't always like to communicate because then they have negative feelings. And then it's just an endless cycle of people just feeling uncomfortable and feeling shitty and just, you know, on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, what a hot topic.
Yes. Hot topic.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier about social media, and I'm wondering if you want to talk about that. I think that's like super hairy.
Yeah, it really is. And that's honestly just that really depends on your relationship with the person.
Yeah.
If you have a dual relationship with them too, then it gets hairy. But like, if it's, you know, the whole professor-student relationship, I would not do that. I would not. And like, some of my friends have graduated, and they're like friends with my professors now on Facebook. So my professors keep popping up in the people you may know.
Yeah.
I'll add you, but not until after.
Yeah.
Because that's really important to me too, to like establish, you know. But whenever my whenever I became a TA, because see, with the program I'm in, it's an equivalency program that goes into the master's degree. So all of the students are adults, like where we've all got a college degree of some sort. And so before I was a TA, I was friends with them on Facebook so we could connect and have hangouts and stuff like that. I didn't delete them off my Facebook. I just was more thoughtful about what I posted. Even though most of the stuff I post on my Facebook and social media, I use it mostly for personal use, not for professional or business use. And so I keep everything private. Yeah. Like it's like on the most private of private settings, where I know some people who use social media strictly for business or professional reasons or that kind of thing. But I don't necessarily use it for that, which is, that's just my decision, because I have lots of family who lives all over the country. So I want to use it for personal things, but I just make sure that I'm like really cognizant. Like when I go to like share a funny meme, I'm like, okay, is this offensive to anybody? No. Okay. Is this going to make anybody, of course, I'm not like trying, because people are going to be offended no matter what, I'm like, is this offensive to the people that matter?
Yes. Yeah.
Because, we all have people on our social media who we just accepted them because it would cause a lot more drama if we didn't.
Yes.
But ultimately their opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like there's those people who you've accepted to follow you on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, then, but you don't really care about their opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But go ahead.
So I obviously have the Music Therapy Chronicles page, and I also have personal pages. And so I'm thinking specifically Instagram mine personal has been private for a long time. And I started having previous guests from the show or like really avid listeners and those types of people adding my personal account on Instagram. And for a while I was kind of like, well, that makes sense. Like I do know them, and like I know them on a deeper level and blah, blah, blah. And then I started, like, the following was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger on my personal account. And I was like, I started feeling uncomfortable. Right. And so like you're saying, sharing stuff with my family and my close friends shouldn't make me uncomfortable because I've chosen to add all these other people. So I went through like a culling where I was just like, hey, any professional things like they're just off my personal page, and in my description I put only personal connections here, so people, like, if they find it, they know that, and people still add me, which I get, like, that's okay. So it's just interesting. I guess part of what I experience is like the FOMO, like the fear of missing out. Like, what if I do say no to this person, or like, why do they want to have this personal connection with me, and am I missing out on that? Which is a me thing to work through, but social media kind of gives us that.
A lot of sense, because then you're like, well, they know this is my personal account and this is not about music therapy at all. I mean, there might be a little bit of music therapy, but it's mostly just like about, me and my dog, whatever,
Yes,
me and my family, and just, having a good life. Why do they want to know all that? Do they want to be my friend, or, yada, yada, yada. And here we go back to communication. Okay, I just had a big thought explode in my brain. When you're in kindergarten, you can just go up to somebody and say, hey, I want to be friends with you. But now people don't say that.
True.
It's like this whole guessing game, and you have to hang out in a group and then hang out by yourselves, and then yada, yada, yada. And then it's just very confusing.
Yeah, it is. Totally.
You're like, hey, I want to be your friend. And then also, like, with one of, and then I'm kind of going on a tangent, or circumstantial, because tangent speech and circumstantial speech is different. It comes back around. Anyway, my one of the professors I was TA for last semester, she's super cool. One of my favorite people. We really get along. We vibe really well. But then I was like, we're not friends right now. I literally said that to her. I was like, we are not friends. You are not my friend. And she was not offended by that at all. And she's like, well, whenever I'm not an employee here, we could be friends.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Because you're
"Okay,
not saying
cool."
it like because you don't like her.
Yeah, and I was like, great, because I want to be your friend, but you're not my friend right now. You are my supervisor, my supervising professor. I am your TA. We have that relationship.
Yeah.
And then on the last day of class, she was like, maybe I'll just send you some TikToks at like midnight to like help ease that transition into us being friends. Because I was like, there's still that power dynamic, even though you aren't my supervisor anymore. You were just like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that.
Yes, because that was related to talking to people and just like people adding you on your socials. And like I added her on socials because we were colleagues more. So, but like if like with my professors that are like teaching me, I don't have them on my socials.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Even
still
though,
weird.
and then like after I graduate, I will add them on my socials so we can stay in contact because I like them.
Yeah. I know. Social media, it just adds such a weird layer. When I was an undergrad, and I was a typically aged student, so like 18, right? 18, 19 to start. There was one music professor in particular who always added the students on Facebook, and he used Facebook as a communication tool. Not that he wouldn't send out emails appropriately or whatever.
That's a little bit different though, if you're using it for that purpose.
Well, but so he would post something because he knew more students would see like, oh, the music building flooded. Don't come to class. He was like, more people will see that on Facebook than check their email at 8 a.m. But it also created, like you're saying, this interesting dynamic where like I'm 18, 19, 20. This professor is my friend on Facebook. I'm doing college things. And, so like, and they added me, right? So it's like, I could say no, but then there's the FOMO of everyone else is saying, hey, did you see what Professor so-and-so posted about whatever? Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah. Because and like in one of my undergrad classes in choir, we would have like a private group on Facebook for choir, like a private group where she would post all of our seating arrangements, all of this and that and this and that. Some people who had never used social media before, they're like, well, I guess I'm getting Facebook. I tried not to use media. And I'm actually going through this right now, even with grad school. I'm in a grad class and she said, follow me on Twitter and I'll follow you back. Because she had us like look up the hashtag disability Twitter and look up, like see if they're talking about the social model or medical model. Like it was an assignment.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
Which was really interesting. And one of the people in my discussion group, I read it and basically she said, she's like, I don't have a Twitter and would rather not. I don't use any social media.
Yeah.
And well, it seems unfair to grade her, like hold that against her in her grades, give her an alternate. I'm hoping that they do that.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing. Social media is like exploded.
That too. I kind of like that assignment. And I wish that different people were assigned, I mean, this is me, were assigned different platforms to see if the content on the different platforms has a different flavor. Does that make sense? Like, does Instagram have a different take than Facebook, than Twitter, than Pinterest, than YouTube? Then that could be cool.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. Like, I don't use Twitter. I am not interested in Twitter at all. And like, I wouldn't be able to do that assignment. And even if I got Twitter just for that assignment, it would be a very unfamiliar thing for me to be figuring out. And is that a great way to use my time?
Exactly. So that's That's kind of a thing too. Man, there's so many boundaries about everything.
So this is going to be a tough question because like we've said, there's lots of boundaries. It's important to communicate them. Sometimes we don't even know that we have a boundary till it's crossed. So
Right.
if there were like a short list of a few boundaries that you wish like everyone told you their second time hanging out with you, just like, hey, I want to know these 5 things or these 10 things, do you have any idea what like your top boundaries that you'd want communicated would be?
Physical affection.
Oh, I was thinking that, yes.
Because like I am autistic and physical affection is a literal sensory support need. It's literally in my diagnosis paperwork. Like I have a stuffed animal with me everywhere.
Oh, it's a dinosaur for anyone who can't see.
For those who can't see, I have a cute little green dinosaur.
He's adorable.
But like I had to have that input. And so there are certain people in my life who provide that support need. And there are certain people in my life who do not.
Yeah.
And so I need to know which one of you which one are you going to be? And what type of physical contact are you okay with? Because in my personal life, I really like platonic cuddling.
Yeah.
It's very nice for people who like physical touch. And then you just have to say, like, what does this physical contact mean in this context? Like, honestly, physical affection is like my number one. Like, physical contact is like my number one. Like, you need to communicate what is expected of me in this role. Also, there's like the idea of like, now, like when you're working in schools, it's not always appropriate, but like I'm working in preschools with, 4-year-olds, and that's totally appropriate. If they come up to me and hug me, then I can like hug them back,
Yeah.
But you have to communicate those boundaries, like into the certain roles.
Yeah.
Is it appropriate for me to do this at this place or at this place? And that, goes on. That's the number one. Number two, when and how can I contact you?
Yes. I was also thinking that.
Yeah. When and how can I contact you? And then third, are there conversation topics that are off limits? And that's really hard to get into.
Yeah.
That's really hard to get into. Because see, I like with my friends, I will talk about anything and everything. Nothing is off limits for me. But it might be off limits for them. They might get uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
But see, nothing makes me uncomfortable. I like talking about anything and everything. And I mean everything. But that might make them uncomfortable. So, you have to talk about that. So like that initial, what conversation topics are off limits, like that would be uncomfortable to have the first that first conversation is stating, I am uncomfortable you asking me questions about my relations with my spouse, like I'm uncomfortable with you, like that. Communicating that in itself is going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to save you a whole lot of hurt down the road. And it's going to make your relationship with that person a whole lot healthier if you just communicate what topics are off limits. Those are my top 3. And I think that pretty much covers all of the things that pop in my head. What are you thinking?
We're on the same wavelength. So you started with physical touch, which like, yes, I think that COVID has definitely changed my personal boundaries with physical touch. And even that, like, I'm still navigating because I used to be like a very intense hugger and people had that expectation of me in a good way, like if someone didn't want that, I'd hope they'd say it to me. And so now people are like, I'm confused. Like, why aren't you hugging me? I'm like, I just don't, I don't know. So that's why physical touch, but also again, like platonic stuff, just so people, don't get the wrong impression, because physical affection is like a huge social thing all on its own to navigate. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I don't want to just steal your answers, but we're on the same page.
You communicate. This is platonic. This is
Yeah.
what this.
Yes. The next one was when to contact. Yes. Because most people in my life know that I go to bed very early, especially in the winter. I live in New England. It's dark at 4 p.m. I'm tired by 7 p.m. Like, so if, you know, if you call me, I probably won't answer. If you text me, I probably won't answer. I'm also not a great texter. So just for people to know that, like, I'm not ignoring you. It's not that I don't want to talk to you. I just, like, seeing the text message on my phone makes me anxious. So, like, knowing that too, about, like, this is the best time to contact me, and this is probably an ineffective way to contact me. And it's not because of you, it's because of me. And then the topics of conversation. I also, like, I think in general, I'm comfortable to breach most topics, and, like, go there. And if I, like, what am I trying to say? If I am having a day or, like, a certain time where I'm just not ready to do that, I'll be like, oh, I'm not really, like, I don't want to talk about that, but I'll listen.
Yeah.
To give someone else the space, you know, to have that. Because if, you know, if I'm okay with it and have the capacity for that day, why not?
Yeah. And that in itself, like the topics of conversation, that can change literally every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that can change literally every day. And, like, you sometimes have to say, no, we're not talking about that today.
Yeah.
Like, I was dealing with something recently, and my parents, they have been super supportive of me through a lot of my, not necessarily job insecurity, but, like, it's instability, I guess.
Yeah. That's it. Music therapy, instability. They're interchangeable right now for most of us.
There's not the whole, it's not insecure. Like, there is work.
Yeah.
But it's not the most stable, because, like, sometimes people just, it's better to end therapy, or it's better to change therapists,
Or you can't fit it in your schedule, or, like,
yeah, XYZ. But my parents have been really supportive of me through all of that. And then, like, I have a group text with me and my parents, and it's adorable. We're great. It's cute. But I texted them. I said, okay, here is what happened, and I will not be taking any questions at this time. Dad, if you are confused, talk to mom.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I confuse reading text messages, so my mom helps them understand stuff better. Yeah. And I was just like, not taking any questions at this time. I felt like a press, like, going to a press conference sometimes with my parents, because they're my parents. They want me to succeed and do well. And
yeah,
like, I'm not taking any questions. I'm not talking about it. The end.
Yeah, totally. I think my parents are some of the people I need to be better about that with, because I can think of some times where, like, social cues I was giving was, I don't want to talk about this, which, like, is not fair. I should have just said it outright. So that's interesting. I love, there's, like, this quote, I don't remember who said it, but it's something to the effect of, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And it's so true, because, like, it brings up all those shadow parts of yourself where you're like, ooh, I am not this person that I am acting like, but in this setting, all of that is coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was something else.
Okay.
I thought of something, but then it left me.
Sorry. Parents saying, this happened, but I don't want to talk about it right now.
Yeah. And then there's the opposite. Like, we respect other people's boundaries, but do we always respect our parents' boundaries?
Ooh, fair.
Especially with my mom. I talk to her every single day. Either phone call or text. I hope that she calls me every single day. If she don't call me and it's like the end of the day, I call her and I'm like, why did you not call me? Do you not love me anymore? No, I'm just kidding. But I will tell her about everything, from intimate relationships to work to X, Y, and Z. Sometimes she's like, I don't need to hear this. And I was like, I don't break HIPAA, obviously. I never do that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like my personal life, I will tell her every single thing. And I was like, well, I don't have anyone, like I am seeing someone, but it's new. And so like, I don't have any, I live alone. So you're my mom. You changed my diaper. I think if you changed my diapers, then I should be allowed to tell you every single thing in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be better about that while still getting my needs met of like talking to my mom and telling her and like asking her advice on this stuff, but also respecting her boundaries of like what she does and doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's like, because we just think, oh, as our parents, I'm fortunate enough that even though my relationship with my dad is hard because I'm gay, and he doesn't really like that, but he still loves me. So I'm fortunate enough that I have maintained relationships with both my parents, because I know some people don't even have a relationship with their parents.
Yeah.
So I recognize that, but I also like want to honor that relationship by respecting their boundaries. You know, like I don't call my dad past 8:00 at night because he goes to bed early.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like wanting to watch, like we're watching the same TV show. He's watching it back in his state, and I'm watching it in my state, and then we talk about it the day after. I'm like, did you watch it yet? Did you watch it? But like I don't, like I want to call him like right after, but that's like late at night. So like I respect his boundary that way of like he's going to bed and he's just gonna get angry if I put him on the
you find a compromise, you make it work.
Yeah.
Totally. Is there anything else you want to touch on before the rapid fire?
I think we pretty much covered what we planned to talk about and a few other stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to chew on.
Boundaries are hard.
Yes.
Relationships are hard. Whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent, it's hard. And we need to give ourselves grace.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, and I need to give myself grace. And we're our own worst critic.
Yeah.
Like I leave every conversation analyzing everything. So we need to give ourselves grace. That's going to be my motto. I just realized that's my motto for 2023. I just realized that.
Yes.
My motto, give ourselves grace.
I love that.
Okay. I'm ready for rapid fire.
I
have to change. My answers might have changed since last time.
We'll have to do like a quiz to see if anyone listens to both episodes and can determine if they're different. Okay. Coffee or tea?
I'm going to say orange juice.
Yes.
I drink orange juice, probably way too much, but it is my safe drink. Whenever I'm in the middle of an autistic meltdown, I go put orange juice in my grown-up sippy cup, basically, my little mason jar, built-in straw, and I just sit on the couch and drink orange juice.
Yeah. Good for you. Thank you for sharing that it's a safety drink too.
Yes, it's great.
Early bird or night owl?
That has actually changed a little bit because I've been in therapy and I can actually sleep now. So that I've been more of an early bird recently. I get up 6 or 7 every day.
I love that for you.
Because I get more work done. Like I have all of my homework done through Tuesday. Nice. So I feel good.
Yeah. Sleep is so important. A very underrated part of our being as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something you'd tell your younger self?
Oh, I know last time I said I'm gay and that's okay. I would still tell myself that.
Good memory.
I would tell myself, well, that like being on this podcast makes me feel so cool. Like I had people reach out to me and stuff, and I
love that. Yes.
Like, this makes me feel so cool. I feel like a celebrity or something. because like you're kind of like a celebrity in my book.
Oh,
so.
thank you. Yeah, clearly so fancy celebrity life. But I love that like people are using the resources and your information and reaching out to you for more and making those connections.
Yeah,
That makes me so happy.
great. Probably, oh shoot, this is supposed to be rapid fire, but it's hard to think
Yeah.
about.
That's usually the kicker question that gets people.
Based on my life experience just this past year, I would be flat out honest with myself. I would say life is going to be shitty sometimes, but never quit being your authentic self. Don't make yourself small for anybody, and don't hide parts of yourself.
Yes.
I'm still working about that with my queerness, but that's a whole other can of worms. But and like you don't need to mask your autism. Don't do that. It's bad for you. You want to take a stuffed animal to your class? Take a stuffed animal to your class. Because it ain't distracting. You just need to hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it would be. Don't make yourself small and be your most authentic self.
Yeah. I love that. I think everyone needs to hear that at every stage in life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Your music therapy elevator speech.
Oh, this is probably not going to change that much. I kind of like this question makes me nervous because I'm afraid people are going to like judge me.
Oh, I don't think so. I love this question because everyone has a different perspective on like how to give an elevator speech and what they think is important. And there's just like there's different theoretical frameworks for our actual clinical work. There's different frameworks for how to explain what it is we do. So I don't think there's a wrong answer. Well, within reason.
Basically because I've had a lot of people ask me what I do recently. And I've said music therapy is kind of like in the realm with physical therapy and occupational therapy. It's just music is our medium. We use music to meet those non-music goals. And we often coordinate with different helping professions and like speech pathology or physical therapist or respiratory therapist, XYZ. And then they're like, oh, okay. Like people, if you say it's kind of like, because music is our medium and we do kind of fall within that category. Yeah, that's my elevator. It's like physical therapy or occupational therapy, but we use music.
Yeah.
And we study music for years. And the
for
brain.
A long time.
And the body. We study literally everything about the person for years.
Oh, no, I skipped one. Sorry. Favorite self-care practice.
Okay. Last time I gave like a million. But they're both mostly the same. I've been listening to audiobooks a lot lately. Yes. I love audiobooks. And I've been rewatching my comfort show, Supernatural. I've been rewatching that for like it has 15 seasons and I'm back on season 11. Nice. And like the newer seasons, when I first watched the show, I didn't really like. But now that I'm rewatching the show, I'm finding more value in them.
Yeah.
Even though like it's just a TV show, but it's fun and it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Do you want to recommend a book for us?
Oh, a book for you to read. All Boys Aren't Blue by George Johnson. It's about queerness. It's a memoir manifesto. That's his genre of it. It's really, really good. I just read it for one of my book clubs.
Yeah.
So good. Because it covers like everything in life. And in the author's note, I was so impressed with the author's note at the beginning because he gave like a trigger warning kind of for the different slurs that he uses. And how he uses them, because he's both Black and queer. So he uses like different types of speech. Yeah. I, as a white person, cannot use,
Yeah.
Like someone who is straight cannot use certain words. But I thought that was, and he gave like a little content warning kind of. So I thought that was really good of him because it's not for everybody. Some people might not be able to know that, but I think everyone should read it, even if you aren't queer, because it kind of gives you insight into that lived experience. And then for fiction, I love any of the Karen M. McManus books. That's the author, Karen M. McManus. She writes it's kind of YA fiction, but I'm 25 and that's a young adult still.
I love young adult fiction.
Yeah, it's so good. It's wholesome, but like even the ending though, like the endings of her books, you can have them be by themselves or it can be a sequel. Like it's like one of those cliffhangers that's like you're not going to be mad if she doesn't write another book, but you want her to.
Yeah.
It's a lot of mysteries. Yeah, those are my books. Okay, next question.
Something that's currently adding value to your life.
Okay. This has been really tricky because I've been in a really hard spot these past several months. I gotta think.
You can skip it if you want.
I don't want to skip it.
Okay, then don't.
It's important to like think about the good stuff, even when you're going through the hard stuff.
Yeah.
What's giving value to my life is that I've surrounded myself with people who are understanding of my accommodations and support me in that way. Like I have cute little stories about all of my stuffed animals. My little dinosaur that I got here. This dinosaur is gender fluid and doesn't have a name yet. Uses any pronouns. And like I make up stories. Like I say that the name, they have to tell me their name and their gender, even though like I know stuffed animals. I don't worry, stuffed animals are not actually talking to me. I have to put that disclaimer out there. They're not
like an energetic thing.
Yeah, it's like an energy thing. But last semester I would take a different stuffed animal class every time. And then my teacher would say, "Who do we have with us today?" And then I'd say a little tiny story, and then we'd go to class, and it wouldn't be a distraction or anything. Like they just let me do what I want,
Yeah.
Because it's not socially acceptable for me to reach over and hold my classmates' hands during the middle of class.
Yeah.
But like I could just sit here and hold my stuffy and take my notes, and not bother anybody. And just like people letting me be my most authentic self, like when I get excited and I start happy stimming and, flapping my hands or clapping or whatever, they just, because I'm not hurting anybody when I am being my most authentic self. So that's what's giving me value, is that the people around me let me be myself.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Your favorite intervention or song to use in a session?
I am very proud of this intervention. I sort of kind of made it up, but not really. I don't think I made it up, but I kind of did. Because I made it up. I call it the pizza game. And we had like a round drum, like a doumbek, or any type of round drum. I use a big giant buffalo drum now with my groups, but I was just trying to fill up the space of the time and do something that would help them. And this was in a child psych unit. And this kid was talking about pizza. And I was like, "Oh, you like pizza? Let's make a pizza." And then I'm like, "What would you put on pizza?" And then they'll say, "I will put pepperoni on the pizza." And then I'll go, "Pepperoni." And then they would say, "Pepperoni." Or I would say, "How do you put pepperoni on the pizza?" And then they flick the drum or they rub their hand on the drum, and then everybody else copied them. And then my supervisor challenged me to like make a song, and I kind of made a little parody of the form. the banana, form the banana, form the banana, except I changed it to make a pizza, making a pizza, make a pizza, making a pizza with pepperoni and cheese, whatever and whatever, insert toppings here. And then we have to, like, the kids have to remember what the person behind them did.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of a chain. You add each thing to it. And
surprisingly challenging.
Yeah. And then we built on it even more in my classes. I was in advanced clinical placement, and we built on it even more. We made a menu, and then we would pick something off the menu to make.
Yeah.
And then we would make it like on the drum.
Yeah. I love that. That
made me feel so creative, because that's kind of one of my hard things. Like, I just look at like what other people have made a lot, and then just kind of adapt it for my own situation. But that one was like mostly me.
Yeah, I love when an improvisation like sticks, like you just did it in the moment for the heck of it, but then it ends up being this whole awesome resource to keep using. I love that.
Yeah, and the kids always would ask. I start back with my kids this coming Wednesday, and they always ask, they go, can we play a pizza game? Can we make a pizza?
Yes.
Yes, we can make a pizza.
I love that. Probably will use that. All right, last question is, where can the listeners find you and connect with you?
They can find me they can email me, laura.buckner@uky.edu, and they can follow me on TikTok. I forgot my TikTok handle. Oh no, my TikTok phone was loud. There we go. I turned it down real quick. Oh yeah. They can follow me on TikTok at Laura Elliott Buckner 34, because 34 is my favorite number. Most of my stuff on TikTok, that's just for fun. Like I said, I use my social media mostly for fun. But I do like to connect with people professionally too on there. Like,
yeah,
if you private message me, most of my TikTok is about being autistic and gay.
Yeah.
Which, that's my life experience.
So that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming back on and sharing your perspective and being open to this conversation. Because I know like actually navigating boundaries in life is uncomfortable. So even talking about them can be really uncomfortable. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. My therapist will be so proud of me.
You can send her or him or them this audio.
Yes, I'm gonna say, hey, look, I'm saying the word boundaries like 12 million times here.
There you go. Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation. I really hope you enjoyed it and it got you thinking a little bit more about boundaries, how you set and hold them, how you communicate them, how often you communicate them, all that kind of stuff. And I will definitely, as always, link all the resources and other episodes we mentioned in the show notes. If you're not already subscribed to the show, please subscribe. Please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. There will be some changes coming soon, so you don't want to miss any of that. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast player. Jump on our newsletter at musictherapychronicles.com and keep your eyes and ears peeled for what's coming around the bend. Thank you again so much for tuning in to today's episode, and I'll see you in the next one.